Hello friends, you all may have heard about Commander Abhilash Tomy, who brought laurels to India in the Golden Globe race of ocean sailing. He was well received with great fanfare by our countrymen and inspired from his phenomenal feats. The Bollywood music duo Sajid Wajid have also dedicated a song for him. Now to know more about Commander Abhilash Tomy and the voyage of the madmen, the Golden Globe race, we flag off an interesting series of talks. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to Maritime Conversations.
Hello friends, greetings to you. I am Commodore Shrikant Kesnur, a Navy veteran. India is a maritime country both by its geography and history. Maritime refers to matters concerning seas and oceans. However, beyond policy and government circles, maritime matters or maritime issues don't get the kind of traction that they deserve. Therefore, some of my friends who are maritime enthusiasts and I have decided to host this program, which we call as Maritime Conversations. In Maritime Conversations, we talk about matters maritime and we talk about them in a way that we can unpack them for you. So, we begin this very exciting journey of ours discussing matters maritime in our show Maritime Conversations. Joining me today is my friend and partner in crime, Swaroop Anand. So Swaroop, what do we discuss today?
Hello everyone. We are in May. Late last month we had one of the most exciting sailing races. The Golden Globe race 2022 came to an end. We had Commander Abhilash Tomy, a modern maritime hero as you called him. He placed second. So let's talk about that, Commodore.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that because I think the Golden Globe race in many ways and Tommy's finish there, spectacular finish there,
Right.
talks of this new maritime energy, a kind of new impetus in India's maritime journey that's come about and which Abhilash has given.
Right.
And there's so many things to talk. I don't know where to begin.
Right.
I don't know how to frame it. So let's discuss. Let's see how you want to go about it.
Yeah, I mean, this was a solo around the world circumnavigation sailing race. Lot of terms. Can you unpack all of these for us?
Yes, absolutely. This race is around the world race.
Right.
That means a person has to go in a small vessel, a yacht, sailing.
Right.
Sailing means he does not use any motorized propulsion.
No external
Just
power.
the waves.
Right.
Waves. The second thing, the person is required to go solo. That means all alone. He is the skipper, he is the cook, he is the captain, he is everything. The third thing is that they are supposed to go non-stop. That means they do not stop at any of the places. And this is a race, which means that you are competing against each other.
Right.
And then of course there are a set of technical rules that you start at the same place, come back to the same place, you go south of the three capes, the great capes of the world. Without getting far too technical, basically it means, Swaroop, it means that people sail usually around 30,000 nautical miles, which is about more than 50,000 kilometers.
Wow.
And these exercises take place around 200-250 days is what it takes.
Right.
So, I mean, imagine you're facing the rough seas, you're facing great variables of weather, and you're doing it all alone on a single, on a single vessel. Right. It's like you are attached to that boat or that yacht. Right. And you got to fight boredom, you got to fight sickness, you got to look after the maintenance of the vessel. Right. So I think it's truly someone has described it as the adventure of madmen. You know, the interesting thing, Swaroop, is that the club of people who have done solo circumnavigation, gone round the world alone on a boat, is less than the number of people who climbed Mount Everest or gone into outer space.
About, if I remember correctly, I think 6,000 people have summited Mount Everest. How many?
You are far better with the facts than I. You know.
How many would have circumnavigated?
Well, I don't think more than 100. I don't think more than 100. You know, I think the last figure was around 80 or something like that. But again, I must tell our listeners that Swaroop is a man of statistics and facts. He is the guy who writes the Wikipedia profiles of a whole lot of Navy and maritime heroes. So you are the person who knows the facts well. And I try and fill in flesh and blood in your skeletal framework.
Commander Tomy has done it not once but twice. This is the second time he's doing it.
That's right, and that's interesting. That makes him, when he did it the first time itself in 2013, he started in 2012. In fact, I was there at the Gateway of India amongst the many people cheering him and seeing him off. So when he did, and there is of course a back journey involving the pioneer Dilip Donde and you know, Admiral Avati and all, and we'll probably talk about that in a bit. But when Abhilash went round the world, solo circumnavigated non-stop in Bombay, he did that in 151 days.
He did, yeah.
That's the title of his book.
His book is
starting in Bombay and coming back to Bombay. In 2013, he was the first Indian and Asian to do it. So he could have rested on his laurels. He had achieved enough.
Right.
You know, but interestingly, he decided to go in for the Golden Globe race, which happened in 2018.
That's right.
Why 2018? It was the 50th year, the Golden Jubilee anniversary of the first GGR held in 1968.
Right.
And Tomy entered that. GGR has very, very strict rules. That is, not only are you racing,
right,
but you are supposed to use technology as was available in 1968.
In 2018, you used the technologies that were available in 1968.
That's right.
So to kind of recreate what?
To recreate. It's like a retro race.
Got it, got it.
So you don't have, I mean, GPS, which we all depend upon.
Wow.
You don't have satellite navigation system.
Right.
You don't have satellite calls. You don't call your family. And people have to navigate using sextant, you know, and all this when you're using the wind power to, you know, put your ship ahead. So to determine your position and navigate, you got to use sextant, you got to use barometer, you got to use barometer to understand weather.
Sure.
And decide which places to avoid. You got to be looking around you. You got to be a true seaman to understand the oceans, and you got to be a very good, excellent navigator and seafarer. So Abhilash joined this race, and he took part. It started, and in 2018, when he was in the third position,
right,
and he was in the southern Indian Ocean region, what some people call the remotest part of the world.
right,
He faced some terrible storms, and his ship got tossed over. That is, it touched the mast, touched the surface of the water, so to say.
Wow.
Twice it got, and he therefore was dismasted. Essentially, you can say his vessel got wrecked.
got it.
And he was injured so badly. He was actually holding on to the mast and he fell from there, and he injured and broke his back. And he sent a SOS. He was waiting for 72 hours in the remotest part of the oceans, awaiting rescue. 72 hours waiting with a broken backbone.
Right.
And when he was ultimately rescued and surgery was done,
Right.
they fused, he had broken vertebrae, they fused 5 vertebrae into one and inserted titanium rods. So it was difficult for this man to even get up at that stage.
Right.
But not only did he get up, he went back to flying, he's a pilot,
Right.
and he went back to sailing. Now, at that time he decided that he must get into the next edition of the race. and that's how he got into GGR 2022.
Got it.
So you can actually say he's done it 2.5 times, 2 times completed,
Right.
and 0.5 times
Right.
for his brilliant effort in GGR 2022. But it's also about coming back from that trauma, so to say.
Sure.
So that's why it's very significant.
Right. So I think after his 151-day circumnavigation, he was awarded the Kirti Chakra, the second highest peacetime gallantry award. He was also awarded the Tenzing Norgay Adventure Award, named after, of course, the Mount Everest summit here.
Yeah.
He then goes back, does GGR 2018. After this, he's also awarded the Nausena medal, and then he has a titanium rod inserted, thus giving the name Titanium Tomy, and he wants to go back. He's also an aviator. He's a maritime recon, pilot. He seems like in his words, the voyage of madmen, you called it.
Yes.
Dare I say, he seems or sounds like a madman.
Or as George Bernard Shaw said, the maddest of them all. No? Yeah, well, in many ways you can describe all these sailors that,
Right.
or you can describe them as unique people, rare, unique people,
Right.
whom the love of sea beckons.
Sure.
So yes, he has won all these awards, and he richly deserves them.
Right.
And I hope he gets, after this current Odyssey, I hope he gets more awards.
Sure.
But he's hardly the sort who would be bothered about these awards, He's also hardly the sort who would, he wears fame very lightly, because for him adventure, solitude, having a certain kind of intimate connection with the sea is what he desires. I say this with some knowledge of knowing him a little.
Yeah, you in fact had a chat with him right after this race.
Yes, I was
very few people, I'm guessing.
I was fortunate.
Right.
We are members of something called the Tomy Army, an informal WhatsApp group that was created to follow the race,
Sure.
and in some way to cheer him on. Of course, it was more psychological. It was more to send vibes, so to say.
Right.
But we were following him closely. And soon after the race, there was a VC where he spoke to us. And then, of course, a few days back, I had a one-on-one conversation with him.
Lovely.
Very nice of him to, so we had some more discussions. And yes, whatever you say, the current race is remarkable for many reasons.
Right.
It's remarkable because he came into it with the trauma of 2018.
Sure.
In the short term, there were also issues about sponsorship, getting the necessary funding for his race. Unfortunately, he had a collision a few weeks before, no fault of his.
Sure.
Just off Spain, his vessel Bayanath had a collision, and the front part, the bow, was almost ripped off. So it was touch and go. They had to repair, they had to put in a new bow, all when others were preparing. Right. So his mental state, you can imagine, and he started the race in that condition. And having started that race, to then come second,
Right.
and miss the first by a hairbreadth margin. The difference between him and the first place, Lady Kirsten, was about 100 miles, which over 30,000 miles, you can imagine it's a kind of millisecond,
Right.
Relatively speaking,
Right.
gap. Also, a very interesting thing, Swaroop, is that his boat Bayanath got battered the most at sea. It faced huge amount of damage, and it is only Abhilash's genius at DIY. He is the innovation king.
Right.
He manufactured things. His self-steering equipment, when it got defunct, first he manufactured a spare out of the chart table, then out of the toilet room door,
Wow. Okay.
and he stitched, when his mainsail came off, he brought that down, he stitched 4-5 meters of the mainsail, put it back. I mean, he's an ultimate, everyone in the GGR community says that he's probably the best DIY kind of a guy.
Right.
I mean, I think someone said, I don't know who, that if I were to be marooned on an island and I had to choose one person, it would be Abhilash Tomy. So, this is the kind of challenges he faced.
Right.
When racing against professional sailors, of course, all of them high caliber people, and to come second there.
Right.
To me, Swaroop, Abhilash Tomy's GGR 22, I think is India's finest sporting event.
Wow.
I would say that very very loudly.
Right.
I think it's India's finest sporting event, and it should be considered on par or more with our 83 Gold Cup or Neeraj Chopra's gold. I mean, they are what you would call as seminal moments in sport, and I would think it is so.
Lovely. The greatest sporting event. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
The greatest sporting achievement.
Achievement.
Yeah. No, I say that because you see there are several things unique about ocean sailing.
Right.
While one must respect all sports, I would think that because there is mortal danger in ocean sailing, remember that this is a race which very few complete.
Right.
For example, out of the 16 who started, only 3 completed this time. So there have been similar figures. I think GGR 18, 17 started, 5 finished. GGR 68, 9 started, only 1 finished.
That's right.
So you're talking of 20% finishing and 75-80% attrition.
Right.
You're also talking about mortal danger to lives. People, many people, their ships could get wrecked, they could be in danger,
Sure.
They have to be rescued by others. So while it is a sport, at one event, fierce competition amongst others, there is also empathy, which was shown when both Kirsten and Tommy went to rescue one of the sailors who had, who had got stuck and who early on.
Right.
And they went for the search and rescue mission. It was Kirsten who actually was the first there and rescued him.
Her competitor.
He was a competitor.
Wow.
So that is different about sailing, that while you are competing against another,
Right.
you ultimately know you are competing against the sea.
Lovely.
And in that sense, it's a very individual race, and because of the mortal danger, I think, and because of the attrition rate,
Right.
I think this rates as the toughest sport. And if it is the toughest sport in which an Indian facing several challenges has come,
Right.
So as I tweeted, because people understand cricketing analogy
Right.
in India more,
Yeah.
I said Abhilash Tomy is a sort of guy who combines,
Right.
the characteristics of several cricketers. He combines the cool quotient and temperament of Dhoni.
Right.
He combines the intensity of Kohli.
Right.
He combines the passion of Ganguly. He combines the skill of Tendulkar. He combines the sort of obduracy and willpower of Rahul Dravid. He combines the several things, that several versatilities that Ashwin has. So and he combines the artistry that VVS Lakshman has. So if I were to put it in cricketing terms,
Right.
he fought, he's outstanding, he fought a brilliant tactical race.
Right.
And in many ways we were watching it in this race, and I can talk about it more.
Yeah.
So I feel it is India's greatest sporting achievement because of the multitude of reasons. It is long.
Sure.
Any event that lasts for 230 to 40 days,
You're right.
in which an Indian has finished on the podium as a silver medalist or in second position, I think we need to be hugely proud about it.
That's right. That's right. I think it's a good segue to understand about, Commander Abhilash Tomy, Kirti Chakra, Nausena Medal, about the man himself. You know him personally. Tell us about the man.
Yes, I mean, I can't claim to be his close circle of friends, but as I've written before, I spent a year with him in the Western Naval Command Officers Mess. I've otherwise interacted with him.
Right.
And there are several things unique to him. I have said all these, and I've said before that he enjoys his solitude. He has an intimate connect with sea, and with adventure too. He's a pilot. He loves flying. He loves being in the elements. You know, he may want to do more adventures in that area. I don't know, but he has this deep and intimate connect with the elements and being by himself. That much is well known. What is not so very well known is that he is a wonderful writer. You know, he writes very well. His tweets from sea were stuff of fun. You know, he has a great sense of humor. I mean, for example, when he manufactured that spare out to the toilet door, he sent back a message saying, "I'm not used to sitting on the toilet with the door open." You know, the sort of, you know, and he didn't forget to wish Indians on Ram Navami or other things like that. So he's very much clued in, got a fabulous sense of humor, a person with very low footprint, very austere, man of very few requirements. I must also mention here, since you asked, Swaroop, that Abhilash Tomy, the man, is nothing without the woman in his life.
100%.
And that is his wife, Urmimala. She was the one who got all of us together on the WhatsApp.
Sure.
And I don't know her at all. I have not met, but she seems to be such a live wire, radiant presence. And on our WhatsApp group, what was interesting was she was the most affected. She was the one who was probably every day worrying about her husband.
I'm sure.
But while we were palpitating about and you know, biting our nails about Tommy coming first and what he would do, she was always calm us down, say, "Don't worry, understand this." She's herself an artist. I think she understands a fair bit of sailing, and she would always say, "Don't worry, Abhilash knows what he's doing. You know, he could be doing this because of it." So she was a very balanced person, and she brought that balance and temperament and maturity. And I think sending Abhilash to sea saying, "Don't worry,"
right.
I think Abhilash Tomy has said somewhere that after his 2018 race, she was pregnant, and he said, instead of me looking after her, she was looking after me and nursing me back. So I think without Urmimala, this race would not have been possible.
100%.
And I think we must say hats off to her too, for her contribution in his victory.
Oh, 100%. Super. I think that brings us to the end of this episode. I think we have a lot more to talk about sailing and the Indian Navy in the next one. See you.